What's the number? Is it 5,000 gold, 10,000 gold, 100,000 per ounce, a million per ounce? Who knows?
And I definitely want to add to this because once you mentioned what James Turk said, I wrote down here Turk to comment on it. Now, I love James Turk. He's amazing. He's one of the true crusaders for our cause. But he, like many others, even up at his level, make the mistake of making these predictions. Even, let's say, Egon von Greyer's, he's out there 3,500 to 5,000 within 12 to 18 months, etc. But again, what is that based on? What is 3,500 to 5,000? I mean, look, I have an estimate of what the gold price should be. It has nothing to do with what it's going to be 12 months from now. It's just simply the math that Jim Sinclair used to top the market in 1980. The math says $15,000 to $20,000 is what it should be today. It has nothing to do with catalysts or anything. That's what it should be.
Yeah, that's based on today's money supply.
Yeah.
The supposed amount of gold that we have, et cetera, et cetera. And we have no idea how much new money supply is going to come. We have no idea how much gold is actually held. So those are variables. And if you put a price in dollars on gold, whatever number you put, that is assuming that we're still in a dollar-based system. We will not be in a dollar-based
system.
In, who knows, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, I don't know. But the dollar does not survive.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. You guys make a good point. I mean, it's measuring gold, physical silver in Zimbabwean currency, in Argentina currency, in Weimar Republic currency. What will the measure be someday in the U.S. dollar currency? That brings us back to the question of hyperinflation, if and when we'll see it in this country, because at this point, the deflationists are still arguing that they're correct. All we've seen is deflation. I know you probably don't agree with that.
I mean, I know that we both understand that the definition of deflation would be a contraction of the money supply, which not only has not happened, it's been the complete opposite. It's exploded higher. Now, the fact that certain items have gone down in price is one thing, but you're definitely not going to see a deflation of the money supply. And the way that I've always put it when asked this question is, the things that you need are inflating. The things that you want are deflating.
Just one little tweak to that. It's not the things that you want, it's the things that you have. It's the things you already have that are deflating. Your boats, your houses, your play toys, all the things that were bought with credit, all the things that have debt against them, that's what's deflating in price.
And I'll also add to that a house is not necessarily something you need. You need shelter. I mean, right. But you can rent, and the same goes for transportation. Not for everyone. Yes, there are some people that need to drive certain places, but there's mass transportation. A house is the greatest misnomer. It's the greatest of all the propaganda, the great American dream and all this. You don't need a house to have a good life. You need shelter to have a good life. And as a result, the credit, like Bill was talking about, was fed into this housing market to the point where I don't even consider houses real items of value anymore. I consider them almost paper assets because it's just been trading titles and investing in mortgages. And that's what people don't understand about deflation and inflation, because the price of gasoline, the price of food, education, insurance, anything that you need, plus throw in all the taxes, which you have no choice about, are going up in price, and I guarantee you they're not going down.
Well, let me just jump in and say that I think you are right when it comes to homes. Even those who believe that their home is still worth more than what they paid and they have equity, we're all in a lot of trouble because of this MERS system and these clouded titles. Now, if for anybody who's refinanced or purchased a home in the last 4 or 5 years, you're generally going to be, your title is going to be MERS clouded, meaning it's in the MERS Wall Street system, and it's been collateralized, it's been bought and sold, and God only knows where your title is now. It's called a clouded title, and there will come a day when that really starts to affect all of us in ways that
we don't know yet.
Yeah, in very scary ways. And I don't want to be an alarmist, but the fact is that I've even been reluctant to do the research about my own title because of the time that it would take, and I'm so busy on other things. But I'd like to know, is my title clouded or not? Probably it is.
And how many mortgages, for that matter, are owned by these banks, which are on the verge? Well, they're all insolvent. And what happens when they go broke? And then again, the bigger picture is, the biggest owner of mortgages in the country is now Fannie Mae, which everyone forgets still exists and is a government entity that's being. They do somehow report every quarter how much money they lose. I'm not sure why because they're not public. But what happens, what's the connection between the MERS system and the government-owned Fannie Mae that owns all this stuff? It's very messy, and it's only going to get more messy as the control we talked about earlier weakens.
This is a great way to end the call, guys. I think we've come full circle in that now we've identified homes and all these other things as really paper assets, right? Gold and silver in physical form is unencumbered, and it has no counterparty risk if you own it in your possession. Can you guys please just touch on that and help people understand why we keep hitting on that time and time again and why it's so important for people to understand?
Well, it is no one's liability. It is money. Alan Greenspan, of all people, has said that the ultimate settlement for international trade has been, and always will be gold.
And Bernanke said the same thing. He said fiat money has nowhere to go but gold. He actually said that. I'm wondering if he was drinking at the time, but like Greenspan, he knows deep down inside what the real issue is. And again, I mean, what it comes down to is you don't want someone else to own your property. I mean, you don't want Fannie Mae owning your house. You don't want GMAC owning your car, and you certainly don't want Morgan Stanley owning your gold or saying they own it, because ultimately, the whole story of the past 5 years since the global meltdown started has been debt default, and you need someone else to default, not you. Let them default on their own assets.
Well, fellas, I think it's time to wrap up. Before I let you go, does anybody want to talk about any landmark dates that are coming up? We have the elections coming up in November. We have October, which is a very dicey time of the year in the stock market, always, it seems. Many predictions for a black swan event, possibly in September, October. Is there anything you guys want to talk about as we're already here in the middle of July, which absolutely slays me? The year is going so fast.
Well, I'll talk about the elections. Actually, I'll talk first because we're in July, and if you remember last summer, we had far from summer doldrums. I actually wrote a piece, June 27th, said summer doldrums, the biggest load of crap ever. Anything could happen at any time. I think there's way too much hype put on the elections, as if like let's say Obama's going to win again, and then all of a sudden the markets are going to collapse. No, they're going to keep trying to do what they're doing today for as long as possible until they can't do it anymore, which could be tomorrow morning. It could be November 5th. There's just no way of knowing.
Yeah, you can't put your finger on any type of date. You know, people have asked me, would this slow down or pull back in the gold and silver markets and the big drop in the mining shares? When is this going to end? Basically, as we spoke about before, it's going to end when they lose control. And when they lose control, I think the more important date is when do the grocery stores go bare? And that'll be like a week or 2 weeks following the loss of control. The loss of control could be tomorrow morning. I mean, I've always thought that it's going to be over a weekend. But it could be 3 months from now. It could be 6 months from now. I can't even imagine more than a year from now because I don't see it. I just don't see them being able to hold it together that long. But once they lose control, we're going to live in an entirely different world.
And they will lose control, as they have in every situation like this throughout history, where powers that be thought that a fiat currency could support an economy.
Well, scary stuff for scary times, but I guess at the end of the day, the reason we do these calls is so that people with the eyes to see and the ears to hear can take some time and take a minute to think about it and to try to start to prepare for a worst-case scenario, because there's nothing worse.
Sean, we're not trying to scare you. We're just giving you the reality of it.
Oh, I'm with you, Bill. No, we've been doing this for a very long time, and it is scary. And sometimes people call it fear porn because as the powers that be are able to keep this thing glued together longer than anyone anticipates, it begins to sound like a broken record. I'm well aware of that. But the fact of the matter is the reason we do these calls is because we don't want people to get hurt. We don't want people to starve. We don't want people, to be in that panic because they didn't prepare and they don't have some food in the basement and they don't have some firearms to protect their home and they don't have any physical precious metals with which to barter or with which to take their wealth into the new paradigm, whatever that may be after this one collapses.
And lest anyone thinks otherwise, I don't enjoy being Ranting Andy. I don't enjoy the attention I get on these podcasts or with my blog. I'd much rather be doing things like moving my life forward than trying to defend my life. But this is the way it is. Unfortunately, people like us have a platform to help others, and like we were talking about here, we don't know how much longer we'll be able to do this. It won't be 10 years, it won't be 5 years, and like Bill said, it would be difficult to believe that 1 year from now we're still having these calls talking about when will they lose control.
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate that so many of us are standing on the watchtower and trying to warn others. So thanks for standing shoulder to shoulder with me, you guys. I really appreciate your time. Bill, why don't you tell us how we can find both you and Ranting Andy on the Internet?
You can go to milesfranklin.com. My email address is bholter@milesfranklin.com. And Andy, yours is
A. Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, A. Hoffman @milesfranklin.com.
And I post all of your material at SGT Report as well, both you fellas. So thanks again for all your time. Can't thank you enough. We really do truly appreciate it. On behalf of all of the people listening, thank you, Bill Holter, and thank you, Ranting Andy Hoffman, for your time.
Very well.
Have a great day.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it, guys. As always, thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for visiting sgtreport.com for all the latest. Good night.